Good afternoon, everyone. It is 4:30. I'd like to welcome everyone here today. We have a fair number of items to cover today, so I'd like to get started by standing for a moment of silence, and we'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, if we could have a roll call, please.
Tom Eggers.
Here.
Wayne Barahona.
Here.
Steve Hamill.
Here.
Ken Snyder.
Here.
Brad Hitt.
Okay, next item up is the approval of the agenda. I'll take a motion for that.
So moved. Support.
Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Hamill.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Barahona.
Aye.
All right, we now move into the public forum of our meeting. Is there anyone here that would like to address the council at this time? Seeing no activity, we will then move on to the consent agenda. Take a motion to approve that, please.
I move to support the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hamill.
Aye.
Barahona.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
All right, moving on now to the new business, item A, and I assume that's why many of you are here today, is the presentation on the redevelopment of the former Bethel Church site. Who wants to speak first? Please state your name for the record, please. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, I mean.
Yeah, seems like morning's a little dark out there. Adam Timmerman, I'm one of the members of the development company, so not sure what you guys want me to talk about. I know just in general you guys have probably seen the picture and changing the way it all sits in there. Hopefully, I think we've tried to address any issues with neighbors and things. We want to be good neighbors from the start with that. But we're excited about the project. I personally love Northwest Iowa and this size of the town and all the opportunities that are available as far as raising a family and those kind of things. So we're excited to be here, excited about just kind of hopefully winding down the final steps and be ready to finally turn some dirt this spring. So we're excited about that. I don't know if you guys, I know Casey, is he on? Oh, he's on? Okay, he's on. So if you guys have any questions for us going in, I know we've kind of hashed through some different things, but that is kind of the final layout that we've arrived at. So do you have anything you want to say, Casey?
Casey, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I just to piggyback what Adam said is, this is our second go-around in front of all of you. Obviously, we've been there before, so we appreciate you taking a look at it again today. The biggest thing that we heard last time when we went through this process is some of the neighbors' concerns about the sixplex backing up to them, the detention basin. And so we as a group went back and regrouped and said, you know what, in order for us to be good stewards in the community, we need to listen to everybody. And we obviously did that, and we went back and said we need to change up the plan to work best for the surrounding neighbors, because we plan to obviously have these things here forever, and we want no hiccups with anybody around us, nor do we want anybody around us to be upset. So that's why you have a new plan in front of you, is first and foremost is listening to all the neighbors and their concerns for what the project looked like before. And so now we have come up with this new concept. We also eliminated the road in the middle, which became a very costly road. We're not going to sugarcoat that by any means. And so with what you see now, I think it's number one, we were able to accommodate what the neighbors had looked at. I know that the road was not something that was really citing to city officials. And so now we're just asking that you guys revisit this with the plan that you see in front of us, or in front of you, excuse me.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council?
Yeah, I do. I know that's in your letter you state begin construction spring of 2023. When would the first units, when would you project the first units ready for occupancy to be?
Based upon when we can break ground, I can tell you historically it takes about 4 months once you break ground on going vertical. With that being said, I'm not so sure how long the infrastructure is going to take on the site. I would pencil probably around 2 months is my guess. I know I'm working with engineers on putting together a timeline on that. I would say our hope is that we are turning over units to homeowners right around the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
With, obviously a big part of this need was your low bid coming in considerably higher than what you had expected. Could you speak a little bit about why that is, and are we sure that all of the surprises are out of the equation at this point?
I cannot say that all the surprises are out of the equation, as we have not started to move any dirt yet. As you never know what's underneath dirt, so I never want to say that we can't foresee any unforeseen surprises as you're turning dirt. But the hope is after talking with engineers and looking at redesigning this site, that we should have no other surprises when it comes to any of the infrastructure that we will have to put in for these 12 units. So I would say, to answer your question, yes, we have some sense that we should not see any more surprises in the infrastructure side, but I can't tell you that we might not see any surprises when we go and start moving dirt.
Okay, thank you.
And it's impossible to get rid of all the surprises, but...
No, and I understand that. It's just, it was obviously very alarming to, well, more you guys than us, the difference in what had come back as far as the proposed costs, and I come to understand that much of that increased cost was based on that private street. Is that right?
Right. That was a big portion of it for sure. Yep.
So if we're eliminating that, and that was the biggest, I guess, alarm bell that was ringing, then I think that certainly gives us some renewed optimism in moving this forward and within the parameters that we have here.
Yeah, and we're kind of hoping we're in a better spot right now too than in the past, where we've had a lot of supply chain, just getting a faucet and those kind of things. There's some things freeing up, lumber, some of those things have freed up a little bit. So we're hoping starting this spring as opposed to last fall, we're in a better spot. But yeah, the street was quite a surprise. So most of those items are eliminated by changing to this other layout. So,
and I think it shows that a good measure of faith on your behalf of having so quickly moved to have the capital outlay to have an entire new set of plans drawn up, and shows that we're encouraged by that, that despite the very jaw-dropping numbers that you might have gotten, that you're still willing to try and move forward and with on the best footing possible. And just want you to know that we appreciate that, and we appreciate the continued relationship, that we can keep this moving forward.
You bet.
Any other questions or comments?
I just like the aesthetic look a lot better than the former. I mean, if nothing else, I just think this looks better for the area and will work better for the area.
Yeah, I think it's an improvement, and obviously there's some a lot of effort and commitment put into that, and again, we appreciate your commitment.
You bet. You're welcome.
Any further comments
Well,
from you?
we do appreciate that. I mean, I kind of want, I hope you guys can get a sense that we are very anxious about trying to get something done on this site. Two, changing the plan as us, as CAP builders, we've also reduced the amount of, or the number of units that we can put on this site, which also affects returns on our side. So I would hope that you can see that we are very interested in investing in your community. And as we've said all along, the hope is that this is not our only project with the community, and that's why we want to get off on such a good foot with the first project, and we took into consideration all the concerns of the surrounding neighbors, is because we want to be a good steward of the community and also consider a partnership with the community, that this is not our only project. We hope to go on and build other townhomes in other parts of the community, and that's our hope, is that we work at this together as a partnership, the city and us privately, and obviously all the surrounding neighbors and the community. That's what we're all about.
Very good. Thank you, Casey. Adam, thank you for being here today. You may have a seat, and we will now move into the public comment portion. Is there anybody here now that wants to speak and address the council at this time? Just a few instructions as you come forward. First of all, state your name for the record. Your time is going to be limited to 4 minutes, so be concise. I will let you know when you're getting close.
Okay, Gene Baumgars, member of Bethel Church. On behalf of Bethel Church, we would like to express our support for this CAP proposal for the redevelopment of the Bethel Church property lot. We feel there is a definite shortage and a need for housing in the Sheldon community. We have, as members of the congregation, we have developed a strong trust and are convinced that CAP builders will build a very, very excellent product for the future potential Sheldon homeowners. A number of us have gone down to the Des Moines area and have seen their construction and the quality job that they do. And because of that, we feel we have a definite confidence level in the work that they will do and that they will put in Sheldon. We feel that CAP Builders has put a win-win proposal on the table before you. The church has a cleared lot which is prepared for development. The city has a substantial additional tax property assessment going from the original 4 lots in the proposal to the current 12, which raises a minimum assessment agreement, which is a win-win. We feel Sheldon does need more quality and affordable housing in order to grow. It will attract businesses and employees to our community. The construction, we feel, after seeing these in central Iowa, we feel will bring a new vibrancy to the center of town. As future neighbors across the street to our new worship facility, which we are planning on hopefully in the spring, we are excited about the revitalization of the center of town and the future of being neighbors in this part of Sheldon. Those are my comments.
All right. Thank you, Gene. Any questions for Gene?
Oh, thanks, Gene.
No, again, thank you for taking part in the process and being committed to it, too.
Anyone else wish to address the council at this time? Step forward. Same things apply. State your name.
Well, Craigton Hartog, Sheldon, Iowa. I own the property over here. This new plan, it looks like it's a much better plan that's going to be better for everyone around the neighborhood. I only have a couple concerns right now. One would be, I understand, and I don't even know if it's true, but that they may only do one building at a time, and I don't know if that's on 7th Street, 6th Avenue, or 7th Avenue. And if that's true, and it happens not to be the 7th Avenue one, there is a sidewalk there that is completely, it isn't completely destroyed, but great parts of it are completely destroyed. And I did talk to Mr. Baumgars on the phone, and his answer was that that cap would be doing something, but that could be, who knows, 2 years down the road. And I think something should be done immediately to take care of the problem, because you can't have strollers, bicycles, anything going down that sidewalk as it is right now. It's been fixed with some kind of pea gravel or crushed rock. I don't know what it is, but it's not a good situation. And I wouldn't expect that they would put, wherever it is, I don't know if it's Bethel or Cap, but sometime in the near future, in the spring, I would expect that they could put some kind of sidewalk in place so that it could be usable. The second thing is 6th Avenue, where they moved out that house, they left the grounds in pretty much disrepair. There's all kinds of sticks and rods and things sticking out of the ground and big mounds of dirt. It would be kind of nice if they would take care of leveling that out, if that's not going to be where they build first. Those are my only concerns right now. Other than that, I think it's a great plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have one.
Okay.
Marvin Reeson called in today at 2:30, and his comments were, the council should not spend $450,000. This is more than they originally told the public. He feels they should require CAP to put up a 100% performance bond on the whole project and make a completion date of April 1, 2024.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Now's your chance. All right. We're going to move forward then to the last portion of this discussion, and that is a council discussion.
Can I say a few words?
Yes, sir.
Casey, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
So I'm not sure if you heard Craig and Hartog's questions. One, their questions others might be asking too. One was the order of the units, which section you'd be putting in first. The second part was the sidewalk, and then the third was the leveling of the whole, if that area isn't going to be where the first set of units is.
Yeah, so I can answer those questions if you would like me to. Let me start off by stating this, that once we go in and move in our earth moving equipment, we will master grade that entire site. So any debris that you see on there or anything that needs to be cleaned up, holes filled, etc., will all be done on our mass grading. We will mass grade the entire site. From there, we will move into putting in the public infrastructure. After the public infrastructure, we will go with vertical construction. The plan right now is to start with 2 of the 4plexes. So 2 out of the 3 4plexes will start as soon as we can obviously start moving dirt. The plan is to do 8 out of the 12 units. With that being said, if there is the activity that we believe and are being told by local realtors, with the 8 units, if we have commitments for 6 out of the 8 units, we will move forward with building 3. At that point, then we will go ahead and build the final unit. But so everybody's aware that building 3 will not move forward until building 1 and building 2 have 6 out of the 8 units committed to. I do not know exactly what buildings we will work with. I would probably get back in touch with Todd, knowing that, okay, is it best for us to work the east and west unit and then leave the south? I, again, want to work with all the city officials and the public works and everybody to know, because I don't want to disrupt traffic flows. I don't want to disrupt a lot of stuff. So I'm open to which 2 buildings go first. If there is a safety issue pertaining to sidewalks and things, we will definitely address that because we do not want any safety issues on the site.
Very good. Does that answer your question? Yeah, good. Anything else from you?
Yes, I'd also like to briefly address the stages of approval. It's also in my report, but I thought I would just take a minute to lay that out for you. And some of these steps are interchangeable. Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment can happen in either order. The Board of Adjustment can happen as soon as we have the setbacks. However, the Planning Commission part needs to wait until we have the official preliminary and final plat. So my thought is that it sounds like both of those, once those come, we can schedule both boards. They're volunteer boards that meet on an as-needed basis. We have some other pending items as well, so we would coordinate accordingly. And then the developers agreement, our city attorney, Micah Scroose, will be working with CAP's attorney to hammer out the details on that, and then there needs to be a set for hearing, vote, and then an actual hearing on the developers agreement and the financing plan, and that can happen before or after the actual subdivision is approved by the council. So no action is necessary today. I think CAP is looking for positive feedback and sign to go forward in that sense, and then we'll keep you posted on the schedule.
From what I'm hearing, I think that's what we've had. I've heard nothing but positive. I shouldn't say nothing. There was one negative comment, but otherwise everybody's pleased with the new plan and excited for it to get started. I think.
Yeah, I think as an amateur, but as a consumer, this looks very saleable to me. Seems like to me, it's more attractive from a sales standpoint of being able to sell the units than the prior plan. I hope it works out well for them.
Yeah.
And I know you look at wanting to have certain guarantees or things of that nature especially when you're making an investment with city dollars. I think the fact that Cap Builders is, despite the setback, has been able to come back to the table with and has not only revamped but has doubled down as far as what we're looking at in terms of assessments and making sure that everything is still going to be in order and that any sort of quote-unquote hit that might be taken is taken on their end and not on the city. So I think I commend Cap Builders for that, for your investment in Sheldon, and I know that you have my support.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think for all the good reasons that I supported it to begin with, and for all of those spoken today by those who shared, as well as the new design, it'll have my support moving forward as well.
Addresses the need that we have. We have people willing to do it. We live in an imperfect world, but I think it looks good.
I'm curious, how many of you are members of Bethel that are here today with us? A good number of you, and I assume you're all, as we are, about moving this project forward. There's a lot of shaking of heads. So, Casey, I'm sure you can still hear us, but there were probably 8 people from Bethel Church, and they're all nodding their heads in support of this. The neighbors have also indicated their support. They like the new plan and addressed some concerns, and yeah, I think it's all systems go, and so I thank you. Pass it along to your investors, your investor partners as well, but we look forward to seeing something happening here this spring.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you for everybody that's been involved. I know we all wish it would have went a little bit faster, but I'm glad that we've slowed things down, listened to everybody, take in everybody's concerns, and we want to move this forward as fast as we can. So we do appreciate everybody and all the support from the community.
All right, and thank you. That means we can move forward then on to item B. I think we've done enough discussing, which is the resolution approving the agreement with 120 Water for the lead water line inventory. Is that something you want to speak to, Todd?
Not really, but I will. Yeah, so this is regulation that started at EPA level, has come down to ID&R level. It's stuff that myself and my water staff have been getting updated on for quite some time now. It's going to be quite an undertaking for our community and many other communities in Iowa. Based on all the research that myself and the water team are done, our best chance for success is entering into this contract with 120 Water. This is going to be step one of what we think is going to be many. I don't know how many of you have ever followed the happenings of Flint, Michigan a number of years ago, but this is where this started. And this, we believe, sets us up for success. So it's a 2-year contract. I guess I laid it out as best I can. I would appreciate it if you'd approve it. It'll help us a ton. I also think there's an opportunity by getting on the front side of things that when steps 2 and 3 come, which I believe will be a lead service line replacement program of sorts, if there's funding available, whether it be for us or whether it be for local homeowners. I think getting on the front side of this and getting ahead of other communities is beneficial.
We've talked a little bit about this before. Would this be total replacement, or would this be like sleeving, or?
So for right now, we just have to create an inventory. I believe there'll be a replacement program coming, Wayne.
Okay.
Now, how that will be managed, they have not told us yet. And whether that will be private property owner problem, because, you know, service lines in town are owned privately by property owners. So whether or not that will be their problem, or whether EPA/DNR makes it our problem, which is potentially likely in this scenario, having this inventory in place will help us get a good start.
So at this point, you really have no idea how much lead pipe there's out laying there? Okay.
Historically,
I know there's some.
sure. Is there in the water industry, is there a time when they thought this was more prevalent than later?
Yeah, I mean, lead service lines were used over a period of time. We've removed them in town as we've seen them.
Sure.
And we do, you know, we already do lead and copper testing throughout the community. It's a requirement of us already. And we're within the parameters everywhere we test. But with any new regulation, when they find a problem somewhere, which happened in Flint, then they find a way to research it further, and then they start restricting parameters further, and then they put more regulation on us, and that's exactly what's happening here. So, you know, there's a certain number of houses we can limit because they're new enough. The unfortunate part in Sheldon is they've decided that date is 1988. Well, a large percent of our community was built pre-1988. I mean, if you think about it, everything essentially west of 23rd Avenue is, you know, a large shot of that is
typically what are we looking at? Are we concerned about finding lead pipe, or is it just a concern about lead in soldering of copper pipe?
Right now, the program is a lead pipe service line inventory, but you do need to understand there is lead in homes, in fixtures, in solder. There's lead in all kinds of things, right? But today's plumbing practices are also different than before. The other thing that goes on with this, if we find lead, and this is where it's going to get a little more complicated and why this is even more important for us. If we find lead and then we find galvanized upstream or downstream of that lead, we now have to treat galvanized as lead. And I don't know how well you know our system. While I don't think we have a ton of lead, we have some. I can guarantee you in the inner square there is plenty of galvanized. So how much lead we find might depend upon how much galvanized we ultimately have to end up dealing with.
And will this inventory program detail that as well?
It will. And now, it's going to take the community's help, right? So, I mean, right now, they're not going to make us go dig up every service. I'm not convinced that it won't come to that someday, that I have to go pothole every service in town. Now, think about the effort that's going to take if that happens. But right now, they're allowing us to not check goosenecks and the actual taps to the pipe. So we'll be doing inter-home piping, we'll be sending out surveys, we'll be asking for the community's help to actually go down in their basement, look at their service line, snap a picture of it, get it to us, report it. So the better the community supports us in this process, the better it will go for us. And 120 will help us navigate through getting the postcards out and getting the information out and getting the flyers out. And then they have a very active inventory database that they're going to help us set up the water plant. And the reason I think that is so important is when steps 2 and 3 and come, we'll have an interactive program we can actually work with. They've done this in other states with other communities that are ahead of us in this process. So those communities, in my opinion, that try to do this by themselves are going to end up with noose hanging themselves because I don't know how they're going to get that efficiently and effectively for the future. Right. Yeah. Might be interesting to see how many local plumbers understand what the feed is to these homes over the years. Because one way or another, they probably had to deal with it from a repair perspective or something. Yeah, I know, and that's one thing that we've talked about briefly is if, if we need to form a partnership with the plumbers in town and try to get data feed from them because they're in more homes in a day's time than we are. They understand that a lot better than the homeowner does. So.
Is there any kind of federal assistance that comes with these tightened restrictions? And then
right now, no. They've told us there'll likely be money available for something later, but right now there's not money to get.
Okay.
Our investment in this right now over a 2-year period is going to be around $25,000. In my personal opinion, that's cheap. And something.
All right. So you're looking for approval
I am.
For this, okay? Would entertain a motion to that effect.
I would move that.
Support.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Eggers.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye. All right, next
I was
item up
watching
is
that.
report.
I was
from
watching that.
A report from the Sheldon Fire Company on the township fire service agreements and resolution to negotiate with Grant Township. I assume you want to speak to that.
Thank you, Mayor. So linked to this agenda item is the call summary for all of 22. Chief Hint is working on a further breakdown of the calls. He was unable to be with us today. So with that being said, I'll jump right into the township discussions, which I've been fairly involved in. So we have, it started with Lynn Township in 2019 where we negotiated a rate with them of roughly 60.75 cents per thousand in valuation, and that works out to be in the current fiscal year about $900 a section. Not sure what it will be in the coming year. There is a new chairman in Lynn Township, so unfortunately we lost Al Stewart last year, but he was great to work with, and I want to thank him for his leadership, for helping move this process forward. He recognized the expensive nature of running a rural fire service, and what he did and his board did help set the tone for other townships and other parts of northwest Iowa. So Carol and Floyd, those are both looking good. We have time left on their agreements. So then that brings us to Grant Township. So Grant Township, it turned into a bit of a last-minute situation last year, a discussion over the number of sections served, which ended up working out to be less than what had been previously. It's now 13.5. Chief Hint and I agreed to recommend to you that we just do a one-year agreement. It did have an auto-renew in it, but we had signaled at that time we wanted to see a renegotiation. Sent out the renegotiation notice on the pricing in the end of December due to the timing of meetings and the holidays and the availability of valuation numbers. It really wasn't possible to have us all wrapped up by the end of January, so city attorney advised to do a formal termination and renegotiate notice, just like we did last year. So that leads us to today. So I linked an email. I linked it just before walking up here, so you may have to hit refresh on your iPads. But I had talked to the new chairman for Grant Township. Grant Township, by the way, covers it's south of Matlock and up to the edge of NCC on the Sioux County side. In Sioux County, they had received our notice on December 28. Chief Hint and I requested to have the opportunity to come speak to their board. We also let them know that this was the beginning of the process, this official notice, and we do have some time to negotiate. I was surprised to find out this morning that Grant Township had met and they've come up with what their number is. I'm not sure what it is, but they've already filed it with Sioux County Courthouse. So I feel compelled to disclose this to you. I just found out about it earlier today, so it's a bit awkward to be in a situation where we're renegotiating a contract that apparently has already been, the other party has already decided to file what they plan to offer us. So as you can guess, it didn't sit well with Brad Hint, and it doesn't sit well with me. So hopefully this turns out well, but it's not off to the best start. But I felt like I needed, because Brad's not here and Micah's here, I felt like you needed to be aware of the situation before you vote on this letter. I think you can still vote on it. And I did ask the chairman of Grant Township to please pull back the filing from the county, Sioux County, so that this can be properly negotiated. And I also reached out to Sioux County's EMA director, Nate Heisinger, today to let him know of the issue. I think here's where the issue is. The issue is that Boyden and Matlock charge significantly less than Sheldon. They all were at one point about the same. And if you look in the history of this and the explanation, at one point some of these sections were being charged $150 and $200 a section, and that cost has gone up significantly over the last several years. When I spoke to Boyden's fire chief recently, their current year rate, I believe, is $400, maybe $450, and our current rate for Grant Township is $775. So not sure what Matlock's is, but I think that's part of where the issue is, because you have parts of the township that are being charged significant, and our equipment and our ability to respond to a large barn fire, for example, which we've had up by Matlock just in the last year. There's been other significant fires out there, but our ability to respond and the equipment that we roll out is significant, and there's a cost to that, and it also is fair to the other three townships for us to charge the same to Grant. So that's where we stand, and I'll stand by for questions.
I'm assuming you've not heard back from the chairman, Leroy, since you sent this email?
I did not.
Okay.
Do you know if it was their intention to be pulling the budget back from the courthouse?
I don't know. I think it's in their best interest to do that, because that's the proper protocol for this. We asked, and it's in my original email on December 28th, I said specifically if the board meets, we would like to be invited. Clearly the board had to meet in order to sign off on the proposal that they filed with Sioux County, so we weren't aware of that meeting. So I do believe that this can be corrected, and it could be that we won't be that far off in terms of the price. I mean, Leroy had mentioned what some of the numbers were. but there was some contingencies based on valuation and all of that, and Brad had said to him the other day we need it in writing, and I said that to him today, that we needed it in writing so that we can adequately consider it. So we might end up on the same page, and it might be just a fine proposal, but it needs to be properly considered in proper form.
Do you view the meeting as contentious between you and Chief Hint and Mr. Krakis?
No, not at all. I mean, I saw Leroy today. I was leaving City Hall and he was coming in, and we had a really nice visit, and then he told me, and I said, well, we really need to have it in writing, and he said, well, it's been filed, and I said, well, why don't you send it to me in writing, and we'll have a conversation. I said, I do remember Brad, asking for us to have a meeting with you or be invited to the meeting, and I had asked the same. So but it was positive, and then I called Brad afterwards, and I said, well, the proposal's already been filed, and I'm not sure what it is, and Brad's reaction was the same as mine, that it was premature to file it, and it needs to be pulled back so that it can be properly negotiated. And if they choose not to pull it back, then that's a risk that they're taking on behalf of their board and their constituents. And I don't think that if their goal is to say, well, we'll just have Boyden or Matlock do it, I don't think that's going to go over very well for the farmers that are right next to NCC that have to wait extra, and then you have an issue that you have to work through with mutual aid. So it's just better to have a conversation about this in the beginning before such an agreement is filed, and then hoping that we'll accept it.
I mean, outside of what you're outlining as far as the process of negotiation and the hiccups, what the resolution here that you're asking us to act upon basically is for the 24-25 rate. That our current agreement is good through June 30th of this year at a rate that everyone agreed upon last year, right?
Correct.
So all you're stating in this resolution, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that we are agreeing to the three that have negotiated and we've agreed upon, and that Grant Township is still outstanding and will be acted upon later.
That's correct. But the action that you are taking today, Tom, is to send formal notice of termination and renegotiation to Grant.
Right.
And that means...
Which is what we
right.
need to do. So but all that's really outside of what you were just explaining as far as the negotiation process.
Yeah, step one is to terminate the agreement.
Right.
Right. So I mean, whether they filed or they didn't file or all that, it's good information for us to understand, but it really has no bearing on the resolution.
Well, I guess my question is, if they had submitted a number that was not agreed upon by us, wouldn't that be a termination in and of itself, being that since they did not have a number with which to negotiate, or that, obviously a contract is between two parties, and if we weren't even invited to the table, that to me sounds like they're attempting to terminate it themselves.
Well, it has a feeling to Brad and I I hope this isn't the way it ultimately ends up being, but it did have a feeling of, well, this is what we're going to do and take it or leave it. Well, that's not fair to...
It's not fair to their
city council. It's not fair to our fire department. That's why I'm disclosing this issue to you now, because of the timing. I think it can be worked out. Ultimately, we're talking about really the difference between $775 a section and $865, which is what I've calculated based on the new valuation. So, yes, that is roughly a 10% increase. But when you look at the factor that they have had very low rates for a lot of years, But the core issue here, and Nate Heisinger and I had a good conversation about this today. Here's the core issue, is that Boyden, Matlock, and Sheldon really should all be charging the same. And because they're all providing, they all have readiness and response costs. And if they don't want to charge the same, that's okay. That's not our call to make. But it does, I think it adds a layer of complexity to the negotiation, because Wayne, in order to figure out what your per section rate is, if you have 35 sections that you're dealing with, you take the total amount of valuation, you divide it by 35, and then you multiply by 13 and a half. So you have to take the whole valuation of the township. Otherwise, you have to look up individual sections
Parcels,
in Beacon, which is not, that doesn't make sense. And so that's why having the whole township figured out the same is best. And that's what Lynn has done, because Hospers partly covers Lynn and Carroll. And so Lynn Township, Carroll Township, and we cover all of Floyd and O'Brien. All of those are uniform across the county, or I'm sorry, across the 3 townships.
And was that something that was communicated from fire chief to fire chief to set those rates, or how did those become uniform?
Well, Al Stewart, in my opinion, was the leader of it. He talked to Jason Overmole in Hospers, the chief in Hospers, and he talked to Carroll, and we talked to Carroll Township, and we had good visits with the townships, and Grant was a little bit resistant, but to their credit, they did come up quite a bit last year, and we told them that we did want to have a renegotiation this year. So this is where we're at.
What worries me is that while I will agree that it would be a lot easier if everyone, said that we're going to split this pie into 32 individual in similar chunks or same size chunks, the problem is that the ability to respond and the ability and the quality of the response is much different for Sheldon than it is for Matlock and Boyden. That's not a knock against those departments. We just have more infrastructure. So what worries me is if this would be setting a precedent to say, well, just file what you want, and then we'll renegotiate it later with Sheldon, and that'll be okay. I don't think that's being a good neighbor. I don't think that's being a good partner, which is what these 28E agreements are, is they're partnerships. So hopefully, we can get this process started, get through the termination, and negotiate in good faith, and get beyond this, because it's concerning that it was approached this way.
Am I correct? All the other 3 townships that we have the agreements with are at the rate?
They are.
Yes.
They're at that rate or very close.
Okay. Anything else?
I move that we accept the resolution as presented.
Okay.
Support.
Anything else for discussion? Roll call, please.
Farahona?
Aye.
Hamel?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Eggers?
Aye.
All right, then the last item under new business is the report from SCAT and a request to consolidate 2 part-time positions into 1 full-time.
You get SCAT lady leadership -1 now. I was going to say +1, -1. So, Kristen Hahn, director. Brian, you the assistant director. So every year we come to you guys to let you know how our year was with our ambulance calls. I did send out the report. You guys all had the chance to review. So I will just do some highlighting of the end of the year report. SCAT ended 2022 with 31 members, 16 were EMTs, 1 is an AMT, 3 RNs, 3 paramedics, 3 drivers, and then 5 total students. I did do a nice statistic from our membership, what they've served to the community. Years of service from our membership, the 31 members, was 230 years that they have committed to the city of Sheldon. So I thought that number was a good number to put out there. We do have some members that have been on for 30-some years. We've had some members that have been on for 1 year. 2022, we ended our year with 807 calls, which is another year record-breaking year. Last year, we ended with 715. Of those 807 calls, we did start covering Sanborn in around August, so we responded to 28 calls to Sanborn. So 28 of those 807 were to Sanborn. Some other statistics we have, SCAT's response time for this year was 5 minutes and 50 seconds. The national average is 8 minutes and 59 seconds. So we exceed the national average response time to responding to our 911 calls. We've also exceeded our CQI goal set by our medical director. Some community service projects that SCAT has done through this year. We did Pizza Ranch Delivery Night, SCAT Christmas Toy Drive. We partnered with Love Inc. for Christmas with them. Celebrated community parades, uptown trick-or-treating, high school football games we did standby for. We did NCC Taste of Home event, Rise Fest event, bike rodeo here for the library. Attended the village celebration on EMS standby. Many opportunities for community CPR was done. NCC Career Day, NCC graduation standbys, Steam Fest in Dordt College, Heroes Behind the Badges, Touch the Truck, Sheldon Sheldon Christian School, and then we just finished the year with providing Sheldon Unity Meal. SCAT was there to serve the community meal. We also ended the year with 3 affiliations. We are now currently affiliated with Boyden, Osceola, and Sanborn ambulances. And just a reminder, that's an affiliation to continue cohesive and collaborative care throughout our communities, which that shares our medical director and our protocols. So we know what they're doing, they know what our expectations are, vice versa. So that is a good breakdown of our annual report. I know the second ask is to consolidate 2 part-times into 1 full-time. So I did go through and found some other numbers for you guys to have to compare with. These are run totals for other services around us. In 2022, countywide, Osceola responded to 533. Reminder, SCAT was 807. Lyon County responded to 727. Sioux Center, 550. Orange City, approximately 740 calls. So for most of the services around here, we are obviously in a higher call volume. I did, if you want the statistics for staffing, I got a couple of staffing statistics from them as well, of how they are continuing to be able to respond to their calls. So I can give you that if you'd like. We are asking for, obviously, the 2 part-time positions to be 1 full-time position. These 2 part-time positions are funded from O'Brien County grants. O'Brien County awarded us 2 grants, totaling $40,000 to put towards their staffing. Those 2 part-times would continue to be funded by the O'Brien County grant. It is not set in stone. O'Brien County hasn't done their budgeting, but next year we're looking at the grants upping to $50,000 for our staffing. I know last year we asked for 1 full-time, which would be half part-time SCAT, half part-time city. So we did levy for those benefits this year. We're asking that for this, finishing out this year, that those benefits, if we are able to do the full-time, are utilized from the levy if that person needs benefits. Otherwise, next year with the ask, we were looking at funding that through our depreciation, since now we do not fund other services out of our depreciation. So I'll give it back to you for questions. I'll lick my lips and
I do have a question.
Absolutely.
So I want to make sure I understand this correctly, is that the county funds can be spent for any staffing position, not necessarily part-time, but also full-time.
It's just specified for staffing.
And it's been $40,000 as of this year,
Yes.
possibly $50,000 going into the new budget. What do you feel you need to have to fulfill the full-time position you're looking for as far as a wage? Will the $50,000 cover it?
Yes. The 50,000 would cover an EMT at the wage that we have in our packet, or a paramedic if we get a paramedic at the wage we have in the packet. That would cover that.
So it would give you flexibility of the full-time position that you're asking for. Okay, thank you.
Got a question here. Looking at call numbers, my Minnesota math is telling me that your 911 calls are up. You fielded 122 more calls this year than last.
92.
For 911.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Any idea what that would be attributed to? It just seems like a huge jump. I know you said there was, 20-something calls for Sanborn, so you can't really blame it on that.
But you see it jumping around the other years anyhow.
Well,
The year before it was up, and then the year before that it was down.
But it's still the highest by about 80 calls of any year ever on record, so.
well, you got to take into consideration, Wayne, that a 911 response starts with someone calling 911. So whether or not that's what kind of an illness or accident or whatever it is, I don't know if you guys keep track of that. Do you keep track of what the incident is on a 911 call?
We don't officially keep track, but we
Kind of know? Yeah.
Yeah, so, but I don't know if you can sit there and say that there was any one reason.
Yeah, I know.
I mean-
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it would be tough to itemize that, but it's just it was something that jumped out at me, and then looking at the lowest number of transfers for like the last 6 years. Would you say that the decreased transfer number is due to improved negotiations and improved communications with the hospital as far as how and when those transfers are being handled, or is that just another somewhat circumstantial number?
I think that's another circumstantial. I know our relationship with the hospital has improved substantially. I don't think that reflects this number.
Okay.
I mean, if they need to be transferred, they're going to be transferred.
Sure.
Whether it's by us or potentially someone else, but.
Yeah, I just, you would think that if you're getting more 911 calls, you'd also see a correlation in transfers as well, but causation and correlation and
I think
something like that.
I'm speaking out of turn because I might be speaking for the hospital. I think COVID did a lot for our hospitals too, whereas they sometimes take on a little bit more and care for a little bit more, a little bit longer.
Sure.
So I think that might have a effect on that, but I don't want to speak out of turn there either. But. I have agreed that a lot of hospitals are not taking as many patients here just because they're so saturated with COVID and everything else. So I think that's a lot of hospitals have had to kind of step up their game a little bit and take care of higher acuity patients than they used to.
Sure. We know that in this climate, more than ever, it's tough to find good people. How are you feeling about the prospects of filling this position?
Actually, we already have prospects that have approached us after we talked to the team about it, because we always talk to our team first and see what they're feeling. And actually, there's been a few people that have come up and said that they would be interested. So.
Oh, that's encouraging. Okay, great.
In terms of the relationship with Sanford, and this goes back to my first council meeting, I think the first council meeting I was at, we had to write off a quarter's worth of ambulance expense, and that's gone on, and I questioned it at the time and was told, well, that's just the way it is. I don't know if that's the way it really is. We've done it that way, but can that be changed?
Unfortunately, the write-offs are insurance write-offs, so there is nothing I can do or the hospital can do about those actual write-off numbers, because those are insurance-based write-offs. That's what insurance says we have to write off. Yes, it looks like a big number, but no matter if you go to the hospital, you go to a clinic, you go whatever, you're going to have that insurance write-off number. So that's a number that I can't.
So it's an insurance adjustment
Yeah. That's a better word for it. Not
to the
insurance,
rate
yeah.
that we charge.
Correct. And we
Okay.
charge the rates based on
Okay.
what Blue Cross Blue Shield suggests we charge.
Correct.
So if Blue Cross Blue Shield rate is here, Medicare Medicaid is down here, your write-offs are going to look bigger when you get the Medicare Medicaid patient.
And no matter what, Medicare and Medicaid is going to pay what they're going to pay, and that's it.
Does Blue Cross and Blue Shield pay what they suggest? Okay.
And if we want to get out of here before tomorrow morning, we'll leave that discussion for another day.
Well
Yes.
said, Wayne.
Sam would like the floor.
And for those of you who weren't at the Emergency Services Task Force meetings, one of the things that has been done is Sanborn and other communities now consistent with Archer being charged, I believe it's $350 a call for 911. So there has been some discussion about doing something similar with the hospitals, particularly Sanford and Sheldon. And so far what's been done is there has been progress made on the mental health transfers, and encouraging the use of the Yes Center for some of those transports, and then also just a general improvement of communication and deployment, and also not using our ambulance service for non-emergent transfers. I do okay? So I think the discussion of eventually charging is still an option. I think right now it's preferred by leadership to wait while some of these other issues are sorted out. But if county funding changes or the call volume continues to go up and write-offs continue to go up, eventually there's going to be an intersect of what the general taxpayers can bear. Now in this particular case, if you do this, SCAT is going to pay for the new positions' benefits. There would be some coming, or they would be coming out of SCAT revenues. If this new employee doesn't take the health benefits, there would still be, some benefits like IPERS and workers' comp and some other things that would and life insurance that would be coming out.
Last thing I'd say on the report side is thank you all very much. What a year that you outlined in your report, and you all should be very proud of what you do, and I know I'm proud to be able to have an opportunity to personally thank you and your team for what you guys have done. This community should be very pleased with the fact that we've got a team like yours and the dedication of the members that you have. So thank you very much.
I would reiterate that. Thank you.
I just saw firsthand up close the efficiency, and I couldn't believe how quick the response for the situation that they showed up, and then how quick and...
You trip and fall again.
What? Not personally for myself. I saw personally.
Okay.
He was an eyewitness.
Ah,
An eyewitness. And I was amazed that you got there as quick as you did. And it wasn't in the best weather either. And the efficiency and just the whole attitude, the carefulness.
So explain to me, Sam or Angie, how this is going to affect, what dollar-wise, what does this do in terms of 2 part-time going to 1 full-time to our budget?
The benefits are already budgeted,
Okay.
as in part of her half of her full-time position that was budgeted for but never fulfilled.
Okay.
I didn't hear you, Angie.
I'm sorry, the benefits are already budgeted, because we budgeted for half of her full-time
Okay.
position in the current year, and we're only looking at about half a year,
Okay.
so.
So does 2 part-time then equal 1 full-time? Does it net out?
Well, they're going to pay for the employee, the wages part of it.
Okay.
What we're really discussing is more the benefits part of it.
Right.
And
Which are significant, going from part-time, 2 part-timers that aren't getting much for benefits to 1 full-time, correct?
right,
It's
but
really only the health insurance,
Okay.
because on the part-timers, we're paying work comp, IFRS, FICA, Medicare, it's really only health insurance.
All right. Very good. Anything else? Do we need a motion to approve this? Are we going to have a resolution for that, or?
or is this all consideration for ahead of budget negotiations?
Well, it's up to you. I think Kristen would like to proceed tomorrow with the posting if you'll support it. And you just have to, it seems that you're inclined to support it in the budget next week. Angie and I know a lot more about the budget today than we did a few weeks ago. And we are aware of one other full-time employee request, which would be in the water department. That would be funded through it would be funded through water revenues. Are there any others?
No.
Full-time? No. So I don't think there's any real surprises. Kristen is willing to have SCAT pick up the additional cost of the additional benefits. The current $40,000 that's currently being levied would continue to be levied, but Kristen knows this, we do reserve the right and the ability to change that and have that all come out of SCAT revenues. But right now, Angie and I are proposing to split the difference, to still have the $40,000 that's currently being levied for current benefits to continue to be levied that way, and then the new levied amount, whatever that is, instead of coming out of the levy, would come from their revenues. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So Sam, you're in support of adding a full-time position as they're requesting?
I am. As a city manager, it's always best to have, when you're a week out from a budget discussion, it's always best to have the conversation in the budget when you know all of your unknowns, or more of your unknowns, but I'm okay with this, and I see an advantage from my perspective as well, is that we have a growing organization with a tremendous call volume, and having stability at the top is important. I see how much Kristen works, and it concerns me, and I think it's important to give her support. From a purely city manager perspective,
Right.
It's always best to wait until the budget, but we fully disclosed what we know and don't know at this point, and I think you can move forward.
Well, I agree on the feasibility and the need for it. I'm looking for your support on the budgetary side of it. It sounds like that's where you're at, so I guess with that, since there's no written resolution, I'd make a resolution that we accept SCAT, a full-time position in lieu of 2 part-time positions.
I'll support that.
Any other discussion?
If I could say one more thing?
Yes, sir.
When we ultimately do the hiring, then that's a resolution of appointment, and in that resolution, I will have a whereas that consolidates the 2 part-time positions, and so then it will be official resolution form.
Okay.
Okay.
But this
Resolution.
motion is fine, so.
Okay. Ready for a vote? Ken, you look like you're pondering.
We have 2 people part-time, so we're losing.
Currently, no. We also, indisclosed to you right now, we are also losing another part-time. She is retiring soon. So,
Okay.
Yep, it all
Then I have
works
no
out in the
questions.
end.
Oh, okay. I don't want to leave somebody hanging.
No, well, maybe we do. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Okay,
That takes care of it.
then let's have a roll call, please.
Hamel.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm good.
All right.
What, did we do the easy stuff then?
How long do you anticipate this is going to take?
2 minutes.
All right,
How's that?
that's good. Then I
Okay.
can make supper by 6.
All right.
Thanks, lady.
So, this information is linked, and I have also printed it in larger format for you. Please take it with you. We will have further discussions on it next week. I do believe that this will make next week's discussion easier. There's still some difficult decisions to be made. Let's just skip ahead to TIF, because that's easier, and we'll come back to local option sales tax. With TIF, I'll briefly run through this. The FY 23-24 revenues, and this is good news, are projected to be less, and it's a net less of at least 200 or about 200,000. But the balance overall improved because of unspent public works funds. There's a couple of minor changes, and then we itemize the HC Lane. By the way, I did receive from our city attorney the order, or the district court order, so it does appear that clean title has been granted. I was going to link that today, and I just didn't get that done, but I think there'll be some interest in that, so it does look like clean title has been resolved for that. So I guess to wrap up, TIF, it looks pretty good overall. We'd have a net balance of about 166,000, and there's a couple of items at the end of the next fiscal year, and you have a couple of items that I'm anticipating might not be spent, including a rebate, and you also have some airport monies coming back in. So now to local option sales tax. You still have a deficit of $340,000. If you fund all 9 projects down at the bottom, it's you're 340 in the hole. So Angie and Todd and I, based on the discussions that we had with you previously, we did make a few recommendations. We moved the NCC LLRC amount of $25,000 up into right next to rec operations. I have had some conversations with NCC asking if they might consider helping us out, knowing the hole that we're in, but we also don't want to press that issue too hard because we really need their services, and the relationship that we have with them is much bigger than the LLRC membership. I guess I'll just stop there. There's more. We can discuss it more next week. I've also printed out in the report the police and fire capital items, and both chiefs can help address that next week. Page 2, by the way, of the report is a copy and paste from the capital improvements plan that was approved on December 7th. So if there's no questions, can I move into city manager report? Do you have any?
Does anybody have questions at this point? I mean, we just got this information. It's going to take some time to digest, and I think we'll save the discussion for next week.
Why don't you either leave these at your chairs or take them with you? All of this is available online, so if you leave these at your chairs and you have them for the budget discussions.
While we're on that subject, will the, our binders are being assembled, are we getting binders with, like other years?
Does anybody want a binder? Last year, I think I'm the only one that had a binder.
I do,
You want a binder?
I do, yes.
Yes, what?
I'm online.
You want one? Okay.
So then, is there gonna be like, how are you gonna compile it? Is it just all gonna be like via OneDrive, or?
It'll be Town Cloud.
Okay.
Yep, it'll be all nicely laid out, so it'll be very similar to last year. I've got Scott Stevenson coming the second night from D.A. Davidson just to talk about our debt capacity for a few minutes. We don't have any bond issues that we're planning on this year, but we are planning on some bonding likely in the next few years, particularly with Western Avenue. So we just want to prepare for that, and then hopefully the budget sessions will go faster because we've had all of this conversation on these two items. So
When would we expect that town cloud to be ready for the budget?
I still don't have yours.
We talked. We talked.
I'm hoping,
We have to have them
I'm
ready.
hoping tomorrow or Friday.
Okay.
And then I have to finish my memo, but I can post the agenda and finish my memo next
Well,
week, so.
it helps us with,
Yeah.
at least getting ample time to do homework.
Yep.
All right. So, have you said everything you want to say? You're done reporting? Todd, anything from you?
Yeah, it looks like we're up for a couple of fun days of weather again, so just to give you an idea, as of now, I have, we are planning on a small group starting at 1 a.m. this morning, another wave coming in at 2 a.m., the final wave will be at 4 a.m. I fully expect town to be a friggin' disaster tomorrow. We'll plow throughout the day, we'll do the downtown overnight, and then we'll do it again, so.
Is that a technical term?
It certainly is, yes. Based on the timing of the snow, that's just the way I see things going down over the next day here, so.
Okay.
We'll do our best to keep things open, but travel's gonna be slow. That's all I have.
Kurt?
No, thanks, Mayor.
Chief, anything from you today? Ange?
No, thank you.
Nick is not here. Counsel to my left? Thank you. And to my right?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
What did you, Tom, nothing, did you say? Tom?
Yeah, nothing.
Okay, very good. And I have nothing, so
I
make a motion to adjourn. Okay, we have motion.
Support.
We have support. Roll call, please.
Yeagers,
Aye.
Hamel,
Aye.
Snyder,
All right.
Farahona.
Aye.
I think that was how well, yeah, not